Hello. Hi. I was looking at some people on that side, and they were all very zoned out when they heard him introducing me. And then they heard Salesforce and data scientist and product manager. And all of a sudden, this person, like, who was just kind of on his phone, started looking up. So this is going to be the theme for most of the conversation anyway. So I have not worked as an engineer ever in my life. I know how to code. I got an engineering degree. That's about it. Never really did anything about that after that. Aparna is the far more domain expert, but it's always a pleasure to talk to, to kind of come and be a part of any one of, whether it's SaaSCon, DevCon events. So thanks to Hari, Jameli, the entire organizing team for having us here. Just before we start, and we have a little bit of a presentation, and Aparna will cover most of the stuff, so you will not have to bear with me for a very long time. But quick show of hands, how many, is everyone over here working in a technical engineering, data science product role, PED kind of roles? Or is there anyone who's not working in a PED role? People working in a PED role, product engineering, design, data science, can raise, okay. Anyone not working in a PED role? Okay, you are the organizer, so I will excuse you. Sir, what role, just want to get a sense of the audience. You're on business, so like sales, go-to-market stuff? Okay, and there was somebody there? Yeah. Customer success, okay. There was one more person somewhere, yeah. Sales or no? Operation side, perfect. So we have a lot of PED folks. Quick show of hands, folks who are engineers. Lots of engineers, product people, product managers. Don't talk to, so all the engineers now know who you are. Design? Nobody in design. Oh, we have one person in design. Great. So we have engineers, product managers, design, and we have one salesperson, one customer success person, and one ops person. Perfect. Exactly how it should be. Great. Any quick, thoughts on what you would want to expect out of this conversation? Any person who has a, hey, I really wanted, I'm here because I thought I'm going to learn X. Just want to take 2 of those so that we have context before we get started. Anyone? If nobody raises their hands, I love doing this. I'll just call on someone. I see someone wearing a t-shirt of, oh, chalo, tum bach gaye. Yes. Yes. How do we invest even before product adoption happens?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is that gets on to?
Okay.
And 2, what are the metrics even before you know that? Obviously,
okay.
there is some setup for, hey, here is what the 3x growth is going to look like. There's going to be a pitch deck, and there's going to say, this is what it looks like on all of this. But you have that hunch to say that, yes, I need to invest. Yes, this is the top 5 percentile of where I need to invest, right? So I want to get into, how do you decide that?
Okay. And are you thinking of starting a company? Are you already working in a startup?
Already working on it.
Okay, already working.
Yeah, I'm founding a MVP for data privacy.
Oh, great.
Yes,
awesome.
Yes.
So we have one, can I have just one more person? We'll cover that. One more person who has a question? Yes.
Yeah, it's more in terms. All right, so it's more in terms of how do you kind of choose a tool, because there is so many out there, and with I think AI coming in, I think people have built some crazy combination of tools. It could be for sales, or it could be for running your operations and things like that. So my question would be how much percentage of your CTO's time or anybody's time has to go in terms of researching that and kind of finalize what would be the best fit?
I will not steal Aparna's thunder, but I'll give you a hint. It's low. If it's low, it's better.
Yeah, you can't afford to spend a lot of time on your CTO.
Yes, so, but I'll let her cover. Okay, great. I really, because I already decided I'm going to ask the person wearing the Nirvana t-shirt, so if I can just ask you if there was anything you wanted to get out of the session. Because I just love the t-shirt, and I was planning to ask you before that person raised their hand.
My question was going to be about metrics, which is that how does the CTO understand business metrics and talk about business metrics and change business metrics to their product adoption?
Okay.
In terms of building that culture
I promise we did not plant him, but there is a slide with the exact same heading, which will come in a few minutes. We did not plant him. Awesome, we will definitely cover that. Just one last question before I hand it over to Aparna. Any CTOs in the room? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the only thing I request is don't be too hard on us. We have tried to capture but we are really looking forward to hearing from all of you after we finish the talk. But don't be too hard on us during the talk. Great, awesome. I don't know if there's a clicker, but if we can start the slides. I'll quickly give an introduction myself. I am a partner at the firm called as BVP, Bessemer Venture Partners. We've been around for over 120 years. Started investing in India in the late 2000s and have been in India for almost 20 odd years now. I've been with the firm for almost 10 years. I've come to many of these past SaaSCon, DevCon events, always a good time to come. Very excited to talk more about you all, about what we have. Maybe I'll let Aparna introduce herself while we wait for the slides.
Same here. Like I'm on the investing team at Bessemer. I've been with Bessemer for like a few years now, and primarily try to invest in the enterprise ecosystem as well as our developer AI ML ecosystem. I have a background in data science and development, but it's been like some time since I've done it. So again, please, the CTOs and engineers, don't be too hard on me. But yeah, like we've tried to distill our kind of knowledge by talking to so many of these companies into like a few slides that we hope that people go back and take this and build companies or, tweak their GTM to appeal to CTOs when you're building products that sell to CTOs. So that's the kind of goal of this slide deck. We love to hear feedback at the end of the session.
Awesome. So we are global technology investors. We've got offices in all these different places. So we're a global firm. My marketing team would not have let me come to this event if I did not present this slide. The only thing you need, two interesting things on this slide given we have it now. So the origins of the firm actually go back to something that many of you may have read about in high school chemistry. Anyone remembers the Bessemerization of steel process? I see some people nodding, but too afraid to raise their hands. Do you remember the process? Vaguely, yeah. Okay, yeah. So it was a process that allowed Carnegie Steel to become the lowest cost steel producer because it reduced the cost of producing steel from iron ore, and it was a carbon dioxide reduction process, whatever. But basically, a person with the last name of Bessemer, I don't remember their first name, created that process inside this company called as Carnegie Steel. That process made the company very, very, competitive in the steel market because steel is a commodity, lowest price person sells the most. The company scaled very well and then was acquired for that technology by US Steel and was one of the first tech acquisitions or tech M&A in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And so the money that the founders of Carnegie Steel made from that acquisition, majority of that money was put aside to invest in other such groundbreaking tech, and that's the origin of the firm. So it has its origins in a very technology-led fashion. Tech at that time meant something else. And the interesting thing is it's not named after the people whose money it was, it's named after the person who created that process. Because that's our philosophy that, hey, it's the founders and the builders doing the work, not really us. And then we've been in India for almost 20 years and are excited to invest more in India. We invested in cloud for over 20 years. We started investing in cloud actually in the early 2000s. All of these companies that you see are companies that we've invested in. I think we've invested, 1 in 4 cloud IPOs. So 25% of all cloud software SaaS companies in the world which have gone public, we've invested in them. Some of those logos are here. We track what is called as the BVP Cloud Index, which is an index of the publicly traded cloud firms and how they are trading, how they are valued, what their cash flows, financials, all that are. We have a long history of helping cloud companies scale from seed to hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. Again, a bunch of logos. Very, very fortunate to have partnered with a lot of these companies across the world. And one unique thing is that we are a global firm at heart. So both Aparna and I actually work very closely with our global colleagues, and part of the reasons we're able to come and give some of the insights that we have is because we've actually spent a lot of time with our peers in every different geography and gotten feedback from CTOs, engineers, buyers of software, in those geographies. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Aparna to talk about the rest of the stuff.
Awesome. So back in 2017, we started realizing that, hey, developers are now holding a lot of the company's purse strings. They are the key decision makers in a lot of the company's CTO's budget, and we started developing these eight laws of investing behind developer companies, and this has started to become our foundation of investing behind developer companies. So I hope that answers one of the questions in the audience on how we actually invest in this space. So the first one is that, hey, this particular software has to be delivering a service that can be metered. Developer platforms based on granular metered units have the ability to upscale and downscale as the needs of the organizations change, and as a result exhibit more pricing power. The second point is that it grows with the business, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the first one, in that well-designed platforms have natural upsell triggers inherent to them, but provided that, hey, that the developer has already tried this product ahead of time. Developers are very much like consumers. We want to get products cheap, and we want to get it for free before we actually start investing dollars behind them. So we like companies that are available for developers to try, and then have these kind of inbuilt inherent upsell triggers within them that eventually comes to point number 3, replaces an existing budget. It becomes really hard to grow in a company and for a developer to justify a growing budget if you're not already replacing something. And alongside that, you also should be providing number 4, which is an amazing developer experience. Again, back to the thing that, hey, we want to have a great developer experience. Like consumers like great products, developers also like great experiences. We now call it DX, developer experience. And we like to invest in platforms where where the experience is as frictionless as possible, and the journey to the aha moment is in less than 30 seconds, so that the developer can actually start to try it, understand whether it is of value to them, and then make a choice of whether or not to invest their efforts and dollars behind them. Number 5 is that we like to invest in companies where products get a lot of developer love. Developers are not shy people, contrary to what everyone says. We love to express our love on products that we love on social media, your Twitter, etc. Developer mavens, as well as organic, authentic developer evangelism has been something that we like to look at as one of the metrics before we invest in a platform. It's very subjective, but we see that great platforms end up getting a ton of developer love online. Number 6 is that, hey, if I bring this platform on, does it get better with more people coming? So does it show network effects? We've seen that with one of our companies, Alloy, and it's worked out pretty great for them. Number 7 is that, does this platform eliminate all the tasks that I don't like to do? As a developer, these platforms should enable me to focus on product differentiation and unique competitive advantage that me as a company am being paid to do. Our company, Cloudinary, really helps that with user-generated content. It helps create it helps identify the metadata as well as the little markers in multimodal media. Either it is like images or videos, etc., and try to find which of these images actually are most relevant to brands. Like a Nike, if there's a photograph being uploaded online, then it generates metadata that says that, hey, this picture is the best one to show to this user. And the last one doesn't target developers as such, but it is targeting aspiring developers. Developer technologies that empower citizen developers within an organization to come on board and contribute to product development, which were hitherto only done using high-skilled developers, and now is being democratized to everyone. thus freeing up precious developer time. So these 8 laws have really proven to be the bedrock of our investing behind developer platforms.
Sorry, if I may just interrupt, Aparna. There was a question on what we look for when we are investing in companies. The developer laws, like Aparna said, are fairly like a guiding principle for us to do that. I just wanted to take a minute, like if anybody felt they resonated or didn't resonate with any one of those laws. Sorry? Great.
Can you elaborate more on the third one? So you mentioned income as an example of that. And you told that developer platform taps into existing budget or maximizes it. Can you elaborate on that?
The idea is basically that if something, like before the product basically comes into the CTO stack, that task was being done by something else. So is your product replacing that budget? And as you grow, the budget increases, right? So you don't want to be adding new budget onto the CTO's platform, rather taking away from existing budget and improving, and simplifying the stack.
I can give you another example of a company that we invested, actually based out of Bangalore, which is in the billing space. So a lot of companies actually spend a lot of engineering resources on building billing infrastructure, or if they're using a third-party infrastructure, then they still have to build integrations into like their CPQ, or like to send the invoice out, to make sure the reminder sent out. Like there's usually, like for example, this is public information. In one of our very large public companies, Twilio, for example, there was at one point a triple-digit number of engineering people working on just billing. And that's like an example of, hey, if you can come in with a product which targets the developers, frees up all those people. Like as a CTO, like if you have 100 engineers working on just billing versus like 100 engineers can build anything. That's another example of this law. Great.
Okay. All right. So we have been investing in this space, I think, since 2008, and we have been fortunate to work with some really amazing companies that have grown immensely in the last decade or so. And as a result, we asked ourselves, what is it that these companies have done for CTOs to adopt them at a really rapid scale? So we ended up taking a few questions that CTOs typically ask themselves, and we converted them into metrics on the right that can be used to measure across different products. So typically when someone wants to adopt a product, they're like, hey, how much developer education do I need to do? Do I need to invest so many more dollars into educating the developers, or do they come pre-educated? And we collate that with community adoption or community love. The second question is that, how affordable is this product? And that collates to pricing. The third one is, how will this improve productivity? Engineering teams are constantly looking for ways to improve productivity and get better at shipping, get better at resolving issues, and this translates to engineering velocity. The fourth one is hybrid work. I think everyone knows all too well through COVID that, hey, hybrid work is now here to stay. And we think a quantifiable metric that gets into a product is that it has to foster collaboration in this increasingly distributed teams. The fifth one is, how easily can this integrate into our current stack? Do I need to invest more dollars? Do I need to invest more man hours into integrating it into my stack? Or does it come pre-built with a bunch of integrations so that it can seamlessly integrate into my existing stack? The last one, and I feel like the most table stake yet important one, is that, is this secure and performant at scale? Can this sustain as I grow? I am probably a small company now, but maybe as I grow, my security needs increase, my performance needs increase, and I want this software to help me achieve all those goals. So these are the 6 considerations that we think a CTO takes into account before they invest in any product. Let's go over it one by one. Community adoption. Community adoption can be a proxy to how much a CTO needs to invest in developer education. If my team is already using it, then you, as a builder of this product, don't need to convince me to buy this. My team is already pre-convinced, I just need to put money behind it. We find that issue comments and contributors to be a more telling sign of engagement on GitHub, especially in open source products, than the much more purported GitHub stars. We think issue comments and number of contributors show a level of engagement which GitHub stars is never able to show as such. Hence this is something that we think CTOs look at to see that is there real community engagement, is there real developer love. Large companies have been built on top of such communities like HashiCorp, Databricks, Confluent, and they have attracted thousands of developers to come together and contribute to a project, which is a core pain point before the company was established.
I am really impressed with this crew, because usually when we drop the line saying GitHub stars are not important, a lot of people, that happens. That didn't happen in this room, so good. It's like one of the easiest to game metrics. Like, you know, if you're like, you can just put a bunch of stars, and we feel that that's great, it's good, but there are other more important metrics which give that same proxy. And you know, if you're a builder of the product, that's what helps you, you know, get convinced that, you know, my product is actually being used. And if you're a buyer, those metrics help you just like, hey, my people are already kind of using it. But good that nobody, you know, got so upset that we said something bad about GitHub stars.
The second one is pricing, and pricing I feel goes really hand in hand with community adoption. If you remove the initial pricing hurdle, then developers immediately come on board, kind of going back to one of the initial developer laws that we spoke about, help reduce this friction, increase developer love, increase developer adoption. A lot of these successful companies like your GitHub, Postman, PagerDuty, all of them provide individual developer product for free. And then beyond that, once a CTO comes into picture and says that, hey, I want to start adopting this platform, you can employ usage-based pricing for these enterprise adoption. We have seen 3 usage-based pricing that have worked really well. The first one is linear pricing for tools where usage varies a lot. The second one is volumetric pricing for users that want more predictability. They know that, hey, my usage is going to be in this bracket as such, and I want to be able to have a predictable budget, and my P&L needs to look predictable. The fourth one is bundling. It allows a really low entry price, but then after that you can start, you as well as the user, as well as the CTO that is, can start to extract more value out of the product, and hence at that time, both your incentives are aligned. So our thought on this is that to achieve the developer love that we spoke about in the prior one, remove the initial pricing hurdle, and then once you've achieved that, to start monetizing and get that kind of enterprise adoption going and pay back all the dollars you've invested in the past, employ usage-based pricing, and you can choose either of the 3 to whatever suits your needs as whatever the CTO needs.
I'm going to just ask the CTOs. I remember there were 2-3 CTOs in that corner. I hope we haven't lost them already. But you know, we're like any thoughts or feedback, or do you resonate with these? Like, you know, is this something that kind of resonates with you? Doesn't resonate with you? I've forgotten who were the CTOs, but you know who you were.
Say yes.
No one?
Excuse me.
Just a comment I wanted to hear your thoughts on. So in my previous company, we had a problem with volumetric. We went with volumetric. The problem was that usage is not predictable all the times, especially when, like, if there is spiky behavior or things like that. And teaching the customer how to read that volumetric chart, especially when something happens which they did not expect, was a huge problem. So overages were a problem which would cause people to churn. So have you seen that?
100%.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah,
you-
no. So I was looking for the go-to-market person. I think he left. But like the go-to-market people are the other people who have a lot of problem with this, and even the customer success people, because you signed up to a product thinking a certain amount of usage, and then all of a sudden usage is either really high and you're like, what did I sign up for? Or it's really low and the person is asking you for money and now you don't want to pay the minimum commit. So it happens all the times. I mean, so that's the short answer, that happens all the time. But I mean, if you like, is there something specific that you were looking for from?
No, I was just asking how you like advise your companies about this particular thing. Like for us, the hardest thing to figure out with pricing was we couldn't figure out. I think we never figured out how to deal with overage as well.
It's usually very hard to get it right the first time. Sorry, you know that you will probably make a few pricing changes before you finalize on your pricing, and it's like, it's one of those things, you know, every 2 years you change how you price it, and if you look back, you will be like, I started with X, I went to Y, then Z, and then I'm back at X, and it keeps going. Because, you know, when you start off, you're trying to do anything and everything that works. Then you realize, okay, this is working, let me scale this. But then as your company grows, you'll unlock a new set of customers for whom that doesn't work. And then you'll go back to, so short answer is, try 2-3 things. Don't worry too much about fixing that, hey, it has to scale forever. Assume it will change and build that flexibility into your contract. So build that flexibility in that, for example, hey, we are going to start with volumetric, but look, we are still exploring this, we may change it. Or we are starting with linear, or we're starting with no pricing, whatever. That's the only, it's not a great answer, but it's very hard. Like Twilio still changes its pricing page. So like if they are forced to do it, then like who are we to think about, you know, not doing it? Was there a question here? No. Yeah, please. We love the stars, sorry.
I was just attesting your point, right? Especially with the developer tools, right? It becomes difficult to showcase the productivity. It is easier to say that, hey, it needs to it is just replacing your existing budget. That's easier said than done. For example, like we are GitHub, like off late, like we are heavy in the Copilot region. Even Microsoft has a greater partner, right? As a parent as well. So it's easier to showcase the productivity, saying that, hey, I am taking your own budget so that you can free up the resources. A lot of questions and conversations happen around like, how does a tool help? How do I measure the productivity? In fact, that's one of the #1 conversation that we have to even showcase the tool. So first year, it's going to be very tough, and we need to be flexible. I'm just attesting what he said, yeah.
We swear we didn't plant any of this. Do you want to go to the next slide?
But I'm loving all the GitHub pictures. That's what I'm looking at. I'm like horse.
We love GitHub. We absolutely love GitHub. And thank you for everything you guys have done for the ecosystem. I will move on because I'm getting glares from the team that, hey, we are running on time, we're running behind on time. The third one, if you all remember, is engineering velocity. It's that going back to what I said before, engineering teams are continuously looking for ways to improve their productivity, improve their velocity, and companies that deliver that quantum leap in improvement in engineering velocity is what are the ones that end up winning. In the end, the CTO is asking, can this tool help me ship faster? Will this help me fail over sooner? So the industry standard of sorts is the DORA metrics, which are these 4 metrics I'm sure most of you are familiar with, which is change lead time, deployment frequency, change failure rate, as well as recovery time. These are the 4 metrics that most CTOs end up measuring before they make that kind of judgment call on, hey, can this deliver that quantum leap in engineering velocity? And we feel a lot of the AI co-pilots that are coming into this are basically that, in that you are supercharging engineering velocity by improving either, by catalyzing code improvement, testing, deployment, model testing, all of that, right? Like we feel some of these Copilot tools fall in this bucket of improving engineering velocity and improving developer delivery time.
And that to your point, is also one way that you can actually demonstrate the ROI or the productivity or the resource free up, because a lot of this is hopefully already getting documented or captured or tracked in some. You're shaking your head.
I don't want to take the thunder from you, but for the correctness, right? Simple thing. It's easier to say DORA, but if you think about an enterprise system, right? There is no one GitHub, right? There's no one platform. We use hundreds and thousands of tools in an enterprise, and I focus on GSIs. That if you take companies like Infosys, Wipro, you cannot pull this metrics at all. That's why companies like, I forgot the name, like we have one company, sorry? No, another company. They are specifically focusing on
Jellyfish, there is, not jellyfish, there is there's
Yeah.
The challenge is like, we need to integrate these tools to come up with these metrics. And in fact, like we have moved on from the DORA metrics. Now we are thinking not just of the tooling, we are thinking about the space metrics where human is also considered, right? What about the satisfaction, job satisfaction?
Awesome. We should connect with you after the presentation.
Yeah, and to your 100% agree with that, it is not really easy to measure these, but these are the ones that people want to kind of migrate to, and that is why there's creating an opportunity of a lot of these tools that are coming up to help measure this. There is Jellyfish, that was the older kind of legacy platform, and now there's like a lot of startups in India also coming up. There's one called Typo, there's another one which is now in stealth mode, but this is creating an ecosystem to help measure this. So completely agree with you there. Nice. The fourth most important one that we see is integrations, and integrations is really front and center of most of the large companies. You look at Snowflake, you look at Databricks, AWS, they advertise the amount of integrations and partners they have, so that again, you as a developer platform can really easily fit into the CTO stack and reduce the amount of time to get onboarded onto the platform. The last two are, we think, table stakes in this ever-evolving ecosystem. The first one on the left is collaboration. This is the post-COVID world where there is a much more distributed work environment, and tools that help in-app collaboration will be the ones that are winners. Like DBT's adoption took off right after they introduced collaboration inside their tool. There's Postman for Teams, there's Terraform Teams, which is again Bessemer portfolio, HashiCorp. So it is really table stakes right now to make sure that collaboration is front and center in these products, and help kind of comment or like chat on Slack, things like that, bring collaboration front and center, and that becomes one of the decision criteria for CTOs to make this choice. The last one is to be secure and performant at scale. I'm sure all the CTOs in this room, even the ones that left, think that security and performance is table stakes. If I am promising to my customer that, hey, I'm going to achieve this SLA of 5 nines availability or less than 0.001 downtime, things like that, this tool should enable me to achieve that, not hinder me from achieving that. So demonstrating that you have successful track record of companies, of helping companies of this size. I know this is a chicken and egg problem, but it really is one of the first things a CTO looks at to say that, hey, I will buy this product because maybe it's helping Twilio do this. Maybe it's helping PagerDuty do this. So if they are able to sustain at that scale, then it should probably be able to achieve my goals as well. That brings us to the summary of the entire framework. This is the first time we are showcasing our framework in a public forum of how we think CTOs evaluate product adoption potential. Net, if you have not been paying attention, this is the one slide you need to take away at the end of this presentation. The 6 metrics we think are key to product adoption potential are community love, pricing, engineering velocity, collaboration, integrations, and to be secure and performant at scale. We are really excited about companies that are building this and helping CTOs achieve this. So if you're building in this place, please let us know. Anant and I would love to chat.
And we still have 5.5 minutes left. So
I'll take this 5 minutes for any Q&A. If there are any questions that you would want to ask, yeah, we'll have some questions.
The Gen AI space, like since you are in AI, you know, like it has disrupted a lot of the startups, right? So how are you evaluating the companies from that technology angle? Because like every AI seems to be like, you know, like disrupting itself very fast. So how are you evaluating when you're thinking about investment? How has it changed your thought process?
No, completely agree in that this ecosystem is evolving really rapidly. With every GPT, with every OpenAI release, at least 1,000 startups die. So fully agree there. I think it comes down to kind of thinking on first principles basis. If you are delivering something which is a wrapper, or is it something genuinely a fundamental thing that you're building on top of what is foundationally available elsewhere, either through your OpenAI or Llama or anything else. So a simple wrapper on top, we feel is not sustainable in like 5-10 years from now, and that's the outlook we want to take. We typically take an outlook of $100 million journey, and a wrapper one doesn't really sustain it. But that said, a lot of our learnings come from the ecosystem by talking to builders, by talking to engineers, CTOs, CEOs, researchers in this space, and understand, hey, what's happening in this? Because our information comes, like we live vicariously through you guys. And as a result, so we lean on the community education a lot. And secondly, we have a really robust ecosystem of operating advisors at Bessemer who have been CTOs at large companies, DeepMind researchers, and Google AI, Google Brain researchers that we lean on really heavily to kind of form a point of view. And lastly, we read a lot. So that's what we end up, that's our approach to thinking about this.
Yeah, and I think house view is that we think AI plus humans is the future, not pure AI. And you know, on the part that Aparna mentioned about wrappers, it's workflows and not wrappers that we are looking for. So workflows and humans in the loop, making them more productive, not taking them away, because there's a lot of things that we feel that in most cases it's going to be a AI plus humans partnering through workflow, what we call as the productization of services, which actually we think is a theme where India has a lot of advantage, because we have this unique position. We have a lot of people. We have a lot of really smart people. We have a lot of really smart people who are developers. And that is a kind of holy trinity which is needed to make this workflow plus AI plus productization of services happen. So we're actually very, very bullish on that theme kind of emerging from India.
To add to Anant's question, another thing, Anant's answer is also vertical AI that we are very bullish about. The foundational models we think that deliver a lot of entropy in the model itself, that you cannot really achieve targeted industry-specific tasks. I don't think OpenAI is going to go solve a problem for the construction industry or the mining industry or the restaurant industry. It's going to create a bedrock of model that other people can build on top of. So we are also really bullish about a company that's taking a view into a specific vertical industry where it has a right to win, either through productization of services or through workflows or something else.
Cool. Hey, hi guys. Thank you for the great session. So my question is more around the GTM approach when you are an early stage startup, right? So one of your slides where you mentioned free, right? So even as a tech first co-founders or founders, if you are selling something to the developers as a free for the community love per se, for how long you should keep it free? I mean, it can be free for 6 months, 12 months, because at the early stage you don't know like what is the tenacity of this whole adoption journey that the users might have on the other side of the table. So any insights on that will be helpful.
I can take that one. So First of all, can I just ask for your company's name? I saw something, Audit Z. What do you do?
So we are in real-time website speed and performance monitoring.
Got it. Understood. Okay. I thought something to do with financial audit. So I was like, that's interesting. But yeah, see, I think the short answer is for as long as you can afford it, right? Because that's the real answer. You know, like people can give you all kinds of theoretical, but eventually you need money to sustain the infra you're building. And so it's for how long can you afford it. So now how do you dissect that? You dissect that in two ways. Either you find a source of money. You either raise capital or you have a services business on the side that generates cash for you or some other way of getting cash flow. That is usually, I mean, if that happens, then great. If that does not happen, there are two approaches people take. One is that how do you basically, like, which is again, it's straightforward, but it has a nuance that you basically put in paywalls at the right points. So you want the community adoption to happen. And you can't block the most popular feature of your product because that's literally why people use it. So how do you build that paywall in? It could be a feature level paywall, it could be a throttling paywall. And that is where the kind of product design really comes in, because every company, like, you need to get that community love. And if you don't have a cash flow source, then you also need to throttle at the right places to be able to get that money. And that's the balance. It doesn't again happen on the first go, but that's what we would advise a company if we were working with them to how to think about this. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, yes, and then, yeah.
Right, the metrics that you showed, do they have any associated CTO persona? Or do they remain the same for a startup CTO, enterprise CTO? Are there branding and scores associated?
There is nuance to it. I think there is some subjectivity to it, but we feel that the metrics that we showed kind of answer like 80% of the use cases, like from a mid-sized startup to a largish company.
At an early stage, a lot of these, it's hard to put, you know, if you're like a 5-person company and you're the CTO, then a lot of things may not make sense. But yeah, if at certain scale, then we think they apply fairly uniformly across stages.
Yeah, I just want to add one point to what that gentleman asked about this free pricing model. So this is something which I personally faced with my startup. And the second thing is, like, even if we talk about any tools or SaaS companies, for example, these free pricing model is something which many are struggling, and I like to call it like if we have any Indian pricing model, right? Because I personally believe if you win the Indian market, you could easily tap in most of these spaces, especially with a premium pricing model instead of offering it for a free. So what would be your thoughts on like a market like India, wherein even by introducing a free tier, you could actually, especially developers, and by developers, like so we deal with freelancers. So just imagine freelance developers getting a subscription kind of thing. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Can I just ask one question? So what was the company that you were running before where you faced the issue?
I'm still running. It's called Ecstasy Creatives. I think we even connected.
Okay.
We basically connect freelancers for businesses and management.
Understood. And your question is that in the Indian market, you don't see people paying for products, or is your question?
Not exactly. I mean, I don't see, if you take a ratio,
Right.
like let's just take developers. Out of 100, like I don't think there would be like 80-90% of the developers would be paying for a tool. And when you take, again, I'm again coming back to the same freelancers. I'm not sure how many freelancers would ideally get a subscription. I think they would, I shouldn't be using the word, they would be finding loopholes to maybe creating multiple accounts. I mean, I don't want to mention those things.
So two things. So one, I think you're absolutely right in the first part that 80% of the developers will not be paying, but that's actually exactly what we see in a lot of the companies. 80% of the usage comes from freemium users. Or like, I mean, it could be 75.
I mean, is your answer is like the 20% paying subscriptions would ideally cover up that 80% cost?
That is pretty much typically what happens. So most of your products that scale, the paying users or the paying people are always a very minority subset of the total using kind of users. And the way you also use, like, it usually also happens that the usage of those paying users is much higher than the usage of the non-paying users, because once they pay for it, then they are going to use the hell out of it because they've paid for it. So it kind of works out fairly. So fully agree with you, and that's
in that case that you have to put your product pricing in such a way that the 80% cost of usage cost of it must be actually billed to the 20% of the people?
So
wouldn't that be humong? I mean,
that's because the usage of those 20% is usually so much high, like is much higher. So it's actually not as if you are, the 20% are not subsidizing the 80%. The 80% are using it at say an X number, but the 20% are using it at a 10X number. So that's how it works. So it's not a cross subsidy to that extent. But most developer companies end up having 70-80% gross margins. So that's also a feature of the sector.
by this 20%, you don't mean the enterprise sales, right? Because
No, I just mean as a total usage.
Yeah.
And your point number 2, I think the freelancer piece, you'll be surprised how many freelancers actually pay for 2 reasons. One, a lot of them are billing that back to their customer. So, you know, it's relatively straightforward to do that. Second, if you're saving a freelancer's time, that is the most important thing. If freelancers are actually one of the easiest people to get money from if you can save their time. What we've seen is that if you can make a freelancer do 4 projects instead of 3, they will pay you for it because that is how their life works. And so on that I don't fully agree, but yes, on the first one I broadly concur that 20% are the people who are paying.